Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Introduce my name is Jihan Puspita Ningrum. I am 5th grade, a morning English education. I made this video to complete one of the assignments from the teaching material development course by the lecturer Memrini Ekayati SSMA. Happy watching. Definition of teaching materials. Teaching materials are all forms of material used to assist teachers or instructors in carrying out teaching and learning activities. The material in question can be in the form of written material or unwritten material. Teaching materials are information, tools, and texts needed by teachers for planning and studying the implementation of learning. The purpose of teaching materials: to assist students in learning something, to provide various types of choice of teaching materials, to make it easier for teachers to carry out learning, and to make learning activities more interesting. Teaching materials according to National Center for Competency-Based Training 2007. According to the National Center for Competency-Based Training, teaching materials are all forms of materials used to assist teachers or instructors in carrying out the teaching and learning process in the classroom. The teaching materials are referred to by own can be written or unwritten. Chomskin S. Widodo and Jasmadi. According to Chomskin S. Widodo and Jasmadi, teaching materials are a set of tools that contain learning materials, methods, limitations, and evaluation methods that are designed systematically and attractively to achieve the expected goals, namely achieving competence and sub-competencies without their complexity. Preparation of teaching materials. In order to obtain teaching materials that are in accordance with the demands of the competencies that must be mastered by students, analysis is needed. The analysis is: the first is curriculum analysis. Curriculum analysis is carried out to determine which competencies require teaching materials. The second, analysis of learning resources. Analysis was carried out on the availability, suitability, and ease of use. The trick is to take an inventory of the availability of learning resources that are linked to needs. The last is selection and determination of teaching materials. The selection and determination of teaching materials is intended to meet one of the criteria that teaching materials must be interesting, can help students to achieve competence. In addition, maps can also be used to determine the nature of teaching materials, whether they are dependent or independent. The principle of developing teaching materials. The first is starting from the easy to understand the difficult, from the concept to understand abstract ones. The second is repetition will strengthen understanding. The third is positive feedback will provide reinforcement to students' understanding. The fourth, high learning motivation is one of the determining factors of learning success. The fifth, reaching a goal is like climbing a ladder, one step at a time. You will eventually reach its certain height. And the last, knowing the results that have been achieved will encourage students to continue to achieve goals. Types of teaching materials. There are two types of teaching materials, namely, the first is printed teaching materials. The second is non-printed teaching materials. The first is printed teaching materials. There are handout, book. Books are divided into four, namely source books, reading books, handbook, and textbooks. And module and student worksheet or LKS, textbooks, leaflets, wall card, photos, and pictures. The second is non-printed teaching materials. The first is audio teaching materials, namely teaching materials that use the sense of hearing, that is captured in the form of sound, usually used for language and music lessons. For example, include cassettes, radios, audio compact disc, MP3 cassettes, MP4, sound recorder, and handphone. And B. Audio-visual teaching materials, namely teaching materials that can be captured by the sense hearing and sight. Hearing teaching materials are teaching materials which combines two materials, namely visual and auditive. For example, such as video compact discs and films. And the last, interactive multimedia teaching materials. Interactive teaching materials is teaching material that combines several learning media or audio, video, text or graphics. They are interactive to control a comment or the natural behavior of a presentation. Next, functions of teaching materials according to the parties using. The first is the function of teaching materials for educators. A. Self-teaching and learning time, where teaching materials have been prepared according to the curriculum and competencies to be achieved. And B. Changing the role of educators. Teachers, as facilitators, also play a role in providing service, including the availability of facilities for their students. One form is to provide teaching materials, such as books. C. Improving the teaching and learning process. Teaching and learning is a process of effort of an educator to improve the quality and quantity of the behavior of their students to become better individuals. D. Teaching and learning guidelines. Guidelines can be interpreted as the main things that become the basis of guidance or direction in doing something. And the last, evaluation tool. Evaluation is a measurement or assessment of students. The second is the function of teaching materials for students. The first is students can learn without educators or other students. The second is students can learn anytime and anywhere. The third is students can learn according to their speed and ability. And next, students can learn in the order of their own choosing. And next, helping students to become independent learners. And the last, guidelines for students. Okay everyone, thank you for your attention and sorry if there are any mistakes. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.